Summer Showcase season is in full flow with a rapid, quick-fire stream of events happening seemingly every day at the moment. We've had a Sony State of Play, we've had Summer Game Fest, we've had the Xbox Showcase, we've had Day of the Devs, the Women-Led Games Show, the PC Gaming Show, and more besides. And I've been looking through all of these shows, all of the reveals, to share the most interesting games on show from the hundreds that we've seen with you. It was really interesting watching all of these events back to back. There were tons of AA and AAA Souls-likes on show. There were loads and loads of indie deck builders and roguelikes, and they all kind of blended into one after a while. So the games that I've picked are the games that hit different for me personally, games that stood out from the pack for one reason or another. Whether it's a really unusual, eye-catching, great art style, whether it's a really strong vibe or an intriguing premise or interesting gameplay mechanics, all of these games leapt out of the pack for me, and I'm really excited to share them with you. So open up your wish list and get ready to add some games as we sift for gold through this flood of summer showcases. As always, your likes are appreciated. You can sub to the channel for more like this. Let me know what's caught your eye in the summer showcases in the comments, and I'll tell you all about this channel's Patreon at the end. And with that, let's go. The first showcase of the season was the Sony State of Play. It was a packed showcase with lots of things to talk about, and I've picked out my top 5 games to share with you. First up was Lumines Arise. This is a new game from the makers of Tetris Effect Connected, that really interesting psychedelic take on Tetris. This time they're taking on the PSP puzzle game Lumines and giving it that psychedelic treatment. There have been 11 versions of Lumines, mostly in the 00s, and they have tailed off, but this is the single most adventurous update the core concept has ever seen. It raises the stakes on the music and the presentation, and it's coming to PS5 as a console exclusive and to Steam later this year. I think Lumines fans will love it, and I think there'll be new fans who discover it for the first time as well, so keep an eye out for it. That's Lumines Arise. The next game that caught my eye was a really spectacular one actually. It was Pragmata, and I think it was my game of the show. You know when you see a trailer and your brain just snaps into full attention and you're like, what's this? You just know you absolutely have to play it. Well, that's what happened for me with Pragmata. The trailer starts with an ad for the Delphi AI Corporation before we flash into the present day where a stricken astronaut is awoken by a young girl. She's been fixing him up after an unknown accident, and they embark together on a journey through a hostile space station. They have to solve puzzles to open doors, get into control rooms, get systems back online. The girl turns out to have abilities like hacking systems, and they engage in combat too, and she turns out to be a useful asset in combat, so I'm quite curious about what she turns out to be. There was also some really interesting looking traversal, including low gravity sections, which I always love to see, and some lifts where you fly up walls with sparks flying. It just looks amazing, and it's exactly my sci-fi cup of tea. I can't wait for this one when it comes to Xbox, PS5 and PC in 2026. That's Pragmata. Another eye-catching game was Romeo is a Dead Man, the latest Suda51 joint. I think this is one for fans of stylish action games like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Astral Chain, that kind of thing. It's a high-tempo, third-person action game with a mixture of shooting, hack-and-slash gameplay, and beat-em-up gameplay as well, with elemental attacks for freezing and then smashing enemies, and loads of other layers thrown into the mix. It also has this really wild splattercore aesthetic that's billed as ultra-violent science fiction. Maybe not one for me exactly, but it does look really tempting, and I know a lot of you out there will love the look of this one, so I added it here for you. That's Romeo is a Dead Man, coming in 2026. This next one is much more my speed. In fact, it was in my top 5 most anticipated games of 2025 in my start of the year indie look ahead. I will link that on the screen now. It is Sword of the Sea, a gorgeous sand surfing exploration game from Giant Squid, the makers of Abzu and The Pathless. And I think all of their games have a certain sense of sadness and beauty and mystery that I really enjoy. A kind of a post-human quietude where you're sifting through empty worlds. You're often trying to sift through the wreckage, figure out what happened before, and figure out what might come next. I am absolutely here for that vibe. It's the reason that I loved Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian so much, so I will be there on day one for this one. I really hope it controls well. It looks slick and satisfying, and the game's director Matt Nava appeared at Day of the Devs to say that he's aiming to give the player a spiritual experience, so let's see if we can get that far with it. I'm sure the Austin Wintory soundtrack will help. I'll be there on day one for this one. That's Sword of the Sea, sliding onto PlayStation and PC on August 19th. There was some news folded in here as well. Silent Hill F got a release date. It's coming out on September 25th. The technical climbing game Cairn got another trailer. No release date, sadly. I'm looking forward to that one. The 2024 smash hit Astrobot is getting yet more new levels. And we got a look at 007 First Light, the James Bond game that looks more action-orientated than espionage-orientated. All in all, I think this was a pretty good showcase, and it had a couple of long-awaited games in there, so, good job, Sony. Next up was Summer Games Fest, where Jeff Keighley took the stage in what I'm assuming was solid gold sneakers. Hideo Kojima was there, as always, to give us another Death Stranding 2 cutscene. Resident Evil Requiem was revealed, but it was the indie games that really shone for me, so I've pulled out 5 that really caught my attention. First up was Mio, Memories in Orbit, a gorgeous-looking sci-fi Metroidvania with a 2.5D perspective, a side-on camera, and lovely use of light and dark. Your character is tiny and mobile, kind of like Ori from Ori and the Will of the Wisps, but you're squeezing through cracks here of a strange sci-fi installation instead of exploring a Disney forest. I played the demo of this one in Next Fest and I was instantly smitten by it. The movement is on point and it's just very slick and intriguing all round, really well presented, it plays beautifully. No firm release date for this one, but I'm very excited about it. 2025 release looks on the cards. It's coming out for PC and all of the consoles. That's Mio, Memories in Orbit. Another sci-fi game was End of Abyss by Section 9. It's coming out in 2026, this one. It's another sci-fi game with a very different vibe. This is more of a horror feeling. It's a top-down shooter with a body horror kind of look to it. The enemies are really horrid, actually. They're like human bodies fused together into big, shambling mega creatures that break apart when they're shot. Imagine the Rat King from Last of Us 2, but made out of people. Kind of gross, kind of interesting. That's End of the Abyss. It's coming to PC and all the consoles in 2026. We also got news, finally, on the release of Mina The Hollower, the much-anticipated pixel art Zelda-like. This game has been featured in my year ahead previews for the last 3 years running. It's so delayed that it ended up in the White Whale section next to Silksong, more of which later. But it looks like this one's finally coming out. It's an old school 2D Zelda-inspired pixel art adventure with fights to win, chests to open, a map to explore, lots of puzzles, and a high fantasy story to enjoy. Mina is a hollower, which means that she can dig underground. That means that you can go underneath obstacles or you can jump over them sometimes, and there are lots of other abilities that you unlock throughout the game. I played the demo of this one and I got stuck pretty quickly, so I'm not sure if the tutorial is lacking or if it was just too late at night or something, but there's a lot of hype around this one. You can try out that Steam demo right now, and the full game is finally coming out on October 31st. That is Mina The Hollower. This next game was another game that I featured in my top 5 most anticipated of 2025. It's Mixtape. It's been very high on my wish list, so much so that I bagged it for my fantasy critic team in the initial draft at the start of the year. It's a teen movie inspired adventure by Beethoven and Dinosaur, that is the Australian creators of the excellent rock opera platformer and artful Escape. I'm just transfixed by this one, the vibes, the stop motion style, the humour, the fantasy. It looks like we'll be skating, exploring, going down the street in a shopping cart, doing secret handshakes and using magical powers maybe. The developer has said that it is a mixtape in terms of both gameplay and music, and it has a stellar licensed soundtrack with bands like The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Smashing Pumpkins and more. We still didn't get a release date for it sadly, but it is coming to Xbox, PlayStation 5 and PC, and it is promised later this year. I cannot wait for it. That is Mixtape. And as much as I love updates on games that I've been looking forward to, I also look forward to just things that I'd never heard of before and wasn't expecting, and one of those was Blighted, the new game from Drinkbox. I really like Drinkbox Studios. They made the Guacamelee series, they made the excellent Nobody Saves the World, and whilst this new game does look a little bit generic, they have a knack and a track record of adding some special sauce to things. Blighted is a top-down, action-focused game, the likes of which we've seen a whole ton of since Hades. This one has crowd control combat, bosses, co-op if you want it, and I'm very curious about what Drinkbox will do to make this one stand out. They've got a way of making their games addictive and accessible and moreish, so I'm quite curious about Blighted. No release date or platform details, but it is coming soon according to Steam. That's Blighted. And that takes us out of the Keighley zone and into the Xbox showcase. A lot of people have been saying that Xbox won the summer showcases, but people seem to say that every year and they haven't been winning generally. I will say though, there were some really good games in this one, so I've picked out a few to highlight for you. First up is Cronos, The New Dawn. We got a new trailer for this one. And while Bloober Team have been responsible for a few hits and misses over the years, they're coming in hot after the well-received Silent Hill 2 remake with a brand new game all of their own design. Cronos The New Dawn is a stylish Dead Space-inspired sci-fi horror game in third person, but it has a little something extra about it. We've seen plenty of those, but this one has a little bit of extra juice. It's something in the gothic style, the creatures slithering through the shadows on the edges of your vision, a dash of HR Giga and Alien, and some mysterious retro sci-fi flourishes like the iconic bull helmet of the protagonist, who seems to be having flashbacks, a little bit like Returnal. So I find this one very interesting. It's an intriguing looking game. The style is saying something and the gameplay looks tight. Count me as intrigued about this one. I'll be awaiting that Metascore with interest when Cronos The New Dawn arrives on Xbox, PlayStation and PC later this year. Wouldn't surprise me if it's around Halloween time. We also got a first look at Aphelion. I'm always here for a new Don't Nod game. I like their approach to storytelling as a publisher. They often make games with branching paths, with big choices, with varied outcomes. But they did also make Jacente a couple of years ago, a traversal-based climbing game, and Aphelion looks like it's maybe more in that wheelhouse. It's a sci-fi game set in a world where the Earth has become uninhabitable, and a ninth planet called Persephone has been discovered in our solar system. You are one half of a scout team that is assessing that planet for habitation, and when things go wrong, you have to explore the planet's frozen surface in search of your wounded companion. This unfolds through exploration gameplay with some survival stuff, with some abseiling and climbing, and apparently some stealth gameplay too. Exploring alien planets in video games is one of my favourite things to do, so I'm really excited by this one, especially because it was made in partnership with the European Space Agency. I'm going to bet that included a lot of research and consultation that will give this game a veneer of authenticity when it comes to space travel. That's Aphelion. It's coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox and PC in 2026. Another good surprise was At Fate's End. It's the first single-player game by Thunderlotus since the award-winning smash hit Spiritfarer. It's an interesting looking game where you play a warrior called Shan who is battling a series of her estranged family members. You can beat them or you can reconcile with them, and that leads to branching narrative outcomes. The art style and the music in this one are characteristically gorgeous for Thunderlotus, and honestly I'm happy to see them making a proper single-player game again. 33 Immortals wasn't for me, and just like in the case of Heart Machine making Hyperlight Break, it sometimes seems that studios that are very good at making single-player games will go chasing some kind of Fortnite live service dream that turns out to be a bit of a misadventure. And I do hope that 33 Immortals finds its audience and does well, but I'm really glad to see Thunderlotus making At Fate's End. It's just the kind of game that I want to see from them, so I'm really pleased to see it here. It's coming to PlayStation, Xbox and PC in 2026. That's At Fate's End. The final game that I've picked out from the Xbox showcase is Keeper. Double Fine are back with their first major game release since Psychonauts 2, although they have teased that they are working on several projects at once. That would explain the radio silence and the 4-year gap since Psychonauts 2. It's the longest they've ever gone without releasing a game in the studio's history. So it's really nice to see Keeper being announced now. If you've watched the amazing Psych Odyssey documentary about how Double Fine makes games, you'll know that some of their ideas come from internal game jams, and Keeper really looks like one of those. You control a walking lighthouse in this game with a seabird for company, and you embark on, according to the press literature, an unexpected journey into realms beyond understanding. The trailer of this one looks brilliant and unexpected. I'm very curious what the gameplay turns out to be. It does look like you can deploy your bird friend to go and do stuff, and the lighthouse walks around in the landscape. As Double Fine has been acquired by Xbox, it will of course be on Game Pass day one when it lands on October the 17th this year. That is Keeper. That takes us on to the PC Gaming Show, a really stacked showcase full of interesting indie games. First up was Moomintroll from the developers of Snufkin Memories of Moomin Valley, a really cute, nice Moomin game that came out last year. This one's a new one where you play as Moomintroll themselves. You awaken from hibernation early and go out to explore a wintry world. It has lovely art, simple, chill gameplay with puzzles, exploration and story. And I'm a huge fan of the original Moomins. I read those books as a kid, and ideas like the entire Moomin family being separated ignited by a giant flood kind of blew my young mind. It opened me up to the idea of the unpredictability of life. I think that's what Tove Jansson was going for, and I've loved the Moomins ever since. If you've got kids, then maybe play the Moomins with them. I'm really looking forward to this one as an adult, so count me in for Moomintroll when it comes out in 2026. We also got a look at Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. I was a big fan of the original Moonlighter. It was a top-down job sim where you delve dungeons by night and then sell the monster parts and treasure in your shop by day. The sequel changes up the look from pixel art to polygons, it changes up the perspective from top-down to isometric, and it looks like a polished, grown-up take on the first game's winning formula. No date yet, but it's expected this year, and there is a demo on Steam now. I'll be playing that soon. That's Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. Another eye-catching game from the PC gaming show was Mandrake. It's a farming game with a twist from the maker of Sunless Seas and Sunless Skies, so you know there's going to be some elements of darkness in this one. It's a lush and colourful world, but with a wild Nordic fairy tale feel to it, and a bit of Alice in Wonderland darkness too. I will normally skip past farming games as they're not my cup of tea, but I really love the animation on the player character here. I really love the rushing waterfalls and the detailed environments. No dates or platforms for this one, and it looks like it might be a long way off, but it's one to watch for sure. That's Mandrake. We also got a look at Voyagers of Nera. This is an open-world adventure game set in a bright, beachy archipelago that has exploration, combat, resources, and lots of things that we're very used to seeing in all kinds of games. But what really caught my eye here was the varied traversal. You can sail over the water, you can surf, you can dive underwater and swim to the sea floor, and you can even fly and glide. And I love games that give you as much freedom as possible in how you move through their worlds, so at the very least I will play a demo of this one if it comes out. Looks like a lot of fun, like a slightly more traditionally video gamey version of Chia, a game that I really enjoyed a couple of years ago. That's Voyagers of Nera, out this year on August 5th. Another game that caught my eye was Garbage County. It's a very dreamy looking driving game. I really like driving games that are about more than racing. It's really fun to explore a big world in a small car, and Garbage County lets you do just that. It's a trash-filled post-human world, and you roll over the dunes and through rivers, as well as apparently defending your precious garbage heap from cleanup bots. So maybe there's a little bit of stealthy tower defense gameplay rolled into this one as well. The trailer of this sold me in seconds. I'm really looking forward to trying it firsthand when it comes out later this year. That's Garbage County. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name of this next one, so excuse me if I'm getting it wrong, but it looks like Militsoiner. It's a bit of a weird game as well as having a weird name. It's an immersive sim where you try to do crimes in a 3D city whilst being under surveillance by an absolutely giant cop. And when I say giant, I mean giant. You can see him from everywhere. He's like a vast landmark squatting over the city, eyeing you between the rooftops and trying to grab you with his giant fingers. A really bizarre game, this one. No release date for this, but if your kink happens to be being squished by giant policeman fingers, then you can sign up on Steam for the playtest now. That is, I think, Militsoiner. The final game in this showcase that caught my eye was Baby Steps, a game that we've seen a lot of over the years. This is the Bennett Foddy Step 'em Up, where you very jankily control each leg of a big chubby fella in a onesie. He will collapse at the slightest drop of a hat. If you touch a branch with your foot, if you step wrongly over a rock, he is collapsing, rolling, and getting up again. Bennett Foddy is a bit of an odd game dev troll. He's the guy who made Getting Over It, where you endlessly climb a mountain before falling right down to the bottom again. He seems to relish intentionally tedious game design, and Baby Steps is no different. It has a very weird control scheme where you hold down the left shoulder button to move the left leg and then the right shoulder button to move the right leg, so walking really does feel like effort as you're playing. I really can't stand Bennett Foddy's games if I'm quite honest, but I'm really glad they exist as well, and will no doubt be watching some streamers play this one. You can try the demo yourself if you're curious and you want to know what it's all about. And if you're a glutton for punishment, the whole game is coming out on the 8th of September. That's Baby Steps, and that brings us to the end of the Xbox showcase. Only one more to go. The final showcase that I'm going to cover is Day of the Devs, because my voice is starting to leave me, to be honest. There are so many more showcases that I would like to cover, like the Wholesome Direct, the Women-Led Games Show, the Mixed Summer Show, and loads more besides. If you're still watching and you would like more of this showcase update coverage, then let me know in the comments and maybe I'll make another video down the line. But the last showcase in this video is going to be Day of the Devs. This is one of the fixtures of the showcase calendar that I look forward to the most. It was started by Double Fine, it was run in collaboration with I Am 8-Bit, and it's now now a non-profit all of its own, and it really is all about strange indie games. It has an experimental feel and a joy of making video games in it that some of the other showcases don't have in their more commercial nature. That said, this year's Summer Edition had a lot of games in it that I've heard about before or that I've talked about already from other showcases this year, like Toem 2, Mixtape, Sword of the Sea, Big Walk, and Blighted, but there were a couple that I want to talk about here. There was plenty of interesting stuff in Day of the Devs as always, including Possessors, the Heart Machine game that is being published by Devolver. And with Hyper Light Breaker turning out to be basically a big dud, I'm really happy that Heart Machine also has this single-player game on the go. It's a very stylish action platform Metroidvania. I played it in Next Fest, and I have to say, the art is incredible in this one. It has this very stylish, demonic style that Heart Machine excels at. The vibes are perfect. It's kind of an existential story set in this demonic city where everyone has been taken over or killed by a demon invasion. The main character makes a deal with a demon to get her legs back, and then she has to help him out, and so that's what the story of the game is. Gameplay wise, I will say that the combat is serviceable, but the swinging and grappling were kind of poor. I fell down a lot when I felt like I should be connecting, so that needs a bit of work, and it has restart points that basically send you back 10 minutes in time. I think it's going for the Hollow Knight bench model, but it doesn't really suit the game here. I would love to see some interstitial restart points or more save points just so that you don't waste time with your runbacks. But all of that said, I really enjoyed the demo and I'm quite into the vibe of this game. I really hope they fix some of those things when it launches on all the consoles later this year. That's Possessors. We also saw a very interesting game called Consume Me. You may have heard of this one as it's been raking in awards when it hasn't even been released yet, including the Nuevo Award, the Wings Award, and the coveted Seamus McNally Grand Prize at IGF. It's a kind of anarchic life sim packed with minigames where you do your scheduling, you diet, you walk your dog, you plan your meals, and you try and find your way through life to one of 13 possible endings. If I'm being honest, I may have passed this one by if it wasn't for all that acclaim, but it must be doing something right. We can check it out on Steam on September the 25th. That's Consume Me. And the final game in the Day of the Devs that caught my eye was Off. This is a 15-year-old cult classic pixel RPG in which you control, and I quote, a baseball batter chasing ghosts in a cubic strange world. This game was apparently the inspiration for Undertale, and now it has been remade 15 years later with revamped combat, modern controller support, and 6 new bosses for players who have played it before. So if you've been interested in really irreverent, crunchy pieces of video game history, this one is coming to Switch and Steam on August 15th, that's Off. I always like to round out these videos with a best of the fest top 5, and I think that at number 5 for me is Keeper from Double Fine. I always like a Double Fine game. They're always doing interesting things. I love the studio, and so I'll be looking forward to that one. At number 4, I've got MIO Memories in Orbit. The demo just sold me on this one. It does wonderful things with light and environment, and it has a really thick, interesting sci-fi atmosphere and great movement too. At number 3, I have Mixtape, the teen movie extravaganza from Beethoven and Dinosaur that I'm just dying to get my hands on. At number 2, I have Pragmata. This is the only AAA game on my list. It's from Capcom. It is that buddy movie sci-fi thing with a strange young girl and an astronaut in a space station together. Just looks very compelling to me, that one. And finally, at number 1, Sword of the Sea. That is my most hyped game. It is the new game from Giant Squid. I loved The Pathless. It landed on my Games of the Year list, so I have high hopes for that one, and I'm really happy to see it getting a release date. And if you're still watching right at the end of this video here, you might be the kind of person who would enjoy some of the benefits of becoming a patron of this channel. You can get bonus podcasts, behind the scenes blogs, and access to the Gaming in the Wild patron Discord. This is a patron-only community, and I like to keep it that way because, you know, the gamer internet is a noisy kind of place, and people that sign up for a Patreon are usually good folks who want to support the creator, so everyone in this Discord is a really nice person. The members share indie games with each other every single day, as well as doing fun stuff like having Next Fest season demo sharing, a Fantasy Critic League, gameplay alongs, a book and game club where people pick games and then read books that are related to them and talk about it together, and a short game club where each month one member picks a short game that is under 2 hours long, everyone plays it across the course of a month, and we all talk about it together. So as well as supporting this channel and helping me make more videos for you, you also get quite a lot of stuff. It's only $1 a month to join. It's patreon.com/gaminginthewild, link on the screen now. A big thank you to my boss tier patrons, Shy Guy and Big Champ, and a big thank you to you if that's something you would consider. And with that, that's the end of the video. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the next one.